Hello, welcome back to our Learn the Flutter series. Today it's lesson number 2. We will be talking about how do we build the app bars. Before we start our lesson number 2, if you have not seen my lesson number 1 where I talked about how do you set up your dev environment, what all you're going to need to write your code, do watch the earlier lesson on our lesson number 1 on how to set up the dev environment. Alrighty, let's get started. And as usual, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so I can keep you updated with all the new tutorials and all the tips and tricks we post. So what are we going to do in lesson number 2? I'm going to give a brief introduction to what exactly is AppBar, what is there to set it up. And then I'm going to have a little segue into just talk a little bit about what is navigation and what is a Navigator class in Flutter. I will have a very detailed lesson on the navigation, routing, etc. But just to get started, I will just show you a little bit of code that we will be writing as part of setting up of our AppBar. Alright, what is AppBar? The little bar that you see at the top of your application, that is what is the app bar. It sits at the top of your view. If you're not looking into building something very fancy, if you are using scaffold to set up your view, then app bar is already available out of the box. All you have to do is instantiate the app bar class, provides all the elements that it needs, and there you go. You saw something that we did in our lesson number 1 where I just set up a very bare minimum app bar with a title in it. So what I did here, on this screen what you are seeing is a combination of 2 screenshots. One that came from the little application that we're building, and second one I just borrowed it from my Google's documentation. So what does that app bar has? App bar has 3 sections. The leading is on the left side where you can put something like an icon, a hamburger or a menu kind of icon. Title right next to the leading on the right side, or depending on if you're using left to right or right to left, then that is where you will put title of your view or whatever you want to put in there. And then after title you will have actions, little icons that you will put there or something else which are actionable. So these are the 3 sections that you see. There are more. There's a flexible space, there's bottom, but for now we will just concentrate on a very simple app bar that I am going to build for my applications with the leading, a title, and the actions. So let's get right into our code. As usual, I am not gonna spend time on showing you slides or showing code on the slides. I will show code right from our Visual Studio editor. App already in debug mode, because last time I said one of the nice things about Flutter is it does a hot reload every time you make a change. So if you compare it to the last time what we did, there is not much has changed. Same 2 buttons at the bottom. It's just a simple text in the body and a little app bar at the top with some additional things in there that we are going to talk about today. From the code point of view, what I did, if you look on the side, I have started rearranging the code a little bit. So you can see pretty much I do for other projects where all the infrastructure related code goes in my infrastructure folder. If I have services that are going to be injected or used during the application, they will go there, and views will go into my views folder, and inside the views, if there are some shared views, they will go into shared folder. And the main entry point for the main application is still pretty much the same. We still have the main function, run app, and a class which is a stateless widget. Only thing that we have changed, instead of home page from last time, I have changed it to a new view called app layout. Where is it? Here it is. So since app layout is going to be a common layout that I'm going to be using for my views, I have put that in my shared folder. So let's get right into it. One more change that I have made this time is that I have made my view stateful instead of stateless. Uh, for now, all I will mention is that to implement a stateful widget, what you will have to do is you will have to define a class called state extended from the state. And now in the widget is not the place where you are implementing the build function that returns the element that Flutter is going to put on the view. All it has is it creates the state. Now it is up to your state class, which is going to implement the build function. So for now, what we have is no different than what we did in home page. I still have a copy of that. So you can see in the home page, last time we just had an app bar, a bottom navigator, and a body. Same thing, only difference is now that app bar is a little bit more expanded. Bottom navigator, other thing I did is I just refactored my navigation bar into a separate class. Still called the same name, still the same navigation bar, but now it is refactored. So app layouts, let's get right into it. How do we add an app bar to our application? So Scaffold already has a property called AppBar where you will be adding. So like I discussed earlier, there are three parts of the AppBar. First, before we get leading. So leading is something where you can put a little bit of a menu icon. Some applications will have a drawer that comes up, or you may be using that section to implement some kind of a drop-down menu to do some other actions. One of the things is that Flutter can reserve that space to automatically add a back arrow on it. This will happen when you will start doing some navigation. What will happen is you navigate from one view to the other. And if Flutter thinks that there is a path back from one view to the other, it will use that space to put the arrow in there. If there is nothing in there, you have an option of turning it off. There is a property called automatically imply leading. What that means is that if you set it to false and there is a navigation that happens which could have shown a back button, it will not show. By default, this is set to true. I added that here just for sake of showing how do you turn it off. So next thing is leading. So what you do in leading is that I will have added a icon button, give it an icon of menu. One thing is then when you start adding actionable items like icon button, on pressed is a required implementation. You can leave it empty, but you cannot leave it out. So if you look at the view that we have, so here is what it looks like. So there is our little menu icon. Let's see what happens if I now remove it. Can I remove it? Let's try it. There we go. As soon as I removed it, you can see that thing just went away. I'm gonna bring it back. Here we go. As simple as that. Here we go. It is back. Now, next thing is I said there's one more. You can set up to show title. For now, I have just left it out because I am setting this up as a common layout for all the pages. We will have a little bit more implementation later where we will be dynamically changing that title. But if you really want to see it, let's add it anyways. So title, my title. That's all that you're gonna need. So let's see if it worked. Yes, it worked. It said my title. It's there. Next is the bunch of actions that we are going to add. Actions. So what is it? It's an array of widgets, and you can put whatever you want to put in there, as long as they satisfy that what type of items you're adding. So in my case, what I have, I just added 2 icon buttons. First one is just because it's going to be a currency monitoring application. I definitely want users to be able to set up some alerts when the prices change. Second one is search. Of course, some people do want to search for things when they're trading currencies. We will talk in detail how do we implement search in Flutter, because Google has a very nice implementation of providing a out-of-the-box search functionality. But for now, let's see what we have. So I have added an icon button. Again, when you have an icon button, you have to provide the icon. Otherwise the compiler will complain. And the next one is every actionable element in Flutter do require onPressed, or any other action element that depending on the element you have chosen. So that's all we have. Before I talk about the actionable item, so I have the bottom navigator. We will be discussing the navigation in detail in another lesson, but for now I just added the bottom navigator that has 2 buttons and a body which just shows. So earlier I mentioned that I will have a little segue into navigation. So what Flutter has is a API that you can use to navigate from one view to another. You can think of navigation that is about, for example, in a mobile app, what you have is a view. When you want to show another view, it's a concept of pushing and popping the views. So let's say that you have, think of view as a slate, a solid slate that you have. Now you want to show another view. What are you going to do? Think it just in physical way. You're going to have another slate where you are drawing something, and then you're going to push it on top of the main view, because you still want to keep the main view in there, but now you want to have another view on top of it. So it is just a simple concept of pushing another view. Flutter provides access to the navigator out of the box. So you can see little code here which says Navigator Push. I am pushing the context who is pushing the view on the stack. So the context gets passed, and then you say it is going to be routing, and you have to provide how this view is going to be built. So that means you have to provide a builder. So in my case, the builder is another page which I will be showing to configure. So that is as simple as that. When you want to navigate from one view to another, or when you want to push a view on top of another view, you just simply call Navigator Push and give it the view that you needed to be pushed on it. And that is all. So let's see how it works before we look at the other view. So there we go. So what I have is this button. I click, there we go. It moved on to a new view. So let's look at that view now. What I have is a alert configuration page. Again, since we will be setting some state, some configuration, so it is going to be a stateful page. So for now it is empty, there is nothing in there, but it is again another widget which is a stateful widget. So how are we building our page? So I just used a little bit of layout elements, row columns. Thing that you need to pay attention to is the little icon button that we had on the view. Here we go. That is showing. So when we build this page, when we are done with building this page in actual implementation, you will be asking user to either save the configuration or cancel out of it. And when they save, you just want that view to go away and take the user back. So here is our icon button, and we handle the press on it. So see, it is very simple to go back to the view from where we came. All you have to do is say Navigator Pop, what it will do is it will just pop this view out of the stack and take you back to where you were. So let's see. I click, voila, we are back to where we were. Earlier, I mentioned something about the leading property of our app bar. So this is the page where you can see that concept and how this works. So since we are using scaffold, you see I don't have an app bar. Since I don't have an app bar, there is no app bar when I will go to that page. Nothing. If there is no app bar, there is no back button. How do I get it? So what are we going to do is we are going to say, I do want to have an app bar. And I'm just going to not put anything in there. For now, let's say, you know what, I just want to say app bar. See what happened. A app bar showed up. Since I did not specify anything in the app bar, there is an implied back button that came into place to use the leading property. That's what I meant earlier, that if you don't put a leading actionable item and you don't turn it off, Flutter framework will put the back button automatically in there because it will utilize that space. So now we have two ways to get back to pop our view. One is this icon, one is this back button. Does it work? Oh yeah, it works. So all right, so that's all that we have that you need to set up a nice little app bar for your application the way I have set it up. So for now, our app bar is sitting right in the view itself. In the subsequent lessons, what we are going to do is we are going to refactor this app bar into a separate file itself. This way we will keep our code neat and tidy. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me those questions till we have our next lesson. Have fun and stay healthy. And thank you for watching. Do subscribe to the channel if you like this series. Bye-bye.